What is going on, Pirate Nation? Welcome in to Jungle Tales, the Pirate Baseball Podcast, Episode 8, coming to you live here on Monday, January the 6th, 2025. It's hard to believe, but we're less than 40 days from first pitch as East Carolina will open the 2025 season on Valentine's Day, a game first of three against the George Mason Patriots, Coach Palumbo's alma mater. But we'll certainly dive into some of those topics toward the end of the show. But right now, as you see here on the screen, very excited to be joined by former East Carolina right-hander, third-team All-American in his junior season back in 2018, Chris Holba. Chris, welcome in.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Obviously you had an excellent career with the Pirates, but taking a look back at things, before we dive into your 3 years in the purple and gold, you were born in Germany. I know you spent the majority of your first year of life there and then moved back there in middle school. So talk about that background that you had, being a military kid. Your dad was in the Air Force, had the chance to play both football and baseball for the Air Force Academy. Give us a Cliff Notes version of your childhood and, just the opportunity to, play a lot of sports growing up, I'm guessing, and then, move around a decent amount.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting childhood. My dad was a pilot in the U.S. Air Force. So anybody that grew up in the military knows that's moving about every 2 years. So that started born in Germany and we moved around. I won't list them all, but about, I think, 14 different places we lived. Some places we repeated, but three older siblings, got really close to them, and then just moving around Europe and then the continental U.S. Sports was kind of the one constant through all those moves. Was new place, new people, but sports was always the same. So that kind of eased the transition. Moving around was just my parents just throw them into sports, make friends, and ended up working out. But yeah, it's got pros and cons moving around that much as a kid. In hindsight, a lot of cool memories and experiences I had. So definitely unique.
In addition to baseball, what other sports did you play?
So played hockey, basketball, football, baseball growing up, and then like a lot of kids in this generation, you kind of start to specialize earlier than my parents or everybody else did. But I didn't specialize really until I'd say in high school. So I kind of dropped all other sports my freshman year and just kind of focused on baseball.
Gotcha. Yeah, specialization is something that certainly over the last couple decades has really become a thing. And I think to a lot of kids' detriment, because you see kids specialize in elementary school, which in my opinion is ridiculous. So, like you did, you played several sports and then, you honed in on one, probably later middle school, going into high school, which is certainly a much better plan in my opinion. And I think Coach Godwin, that's something that you've heard him say, as well as a lot of other coaches down through the years, that they like guys that have played a variety of sports.
Yeah, definitely. Sure hear a lot of people say it's the athletic development, playing different sports, different muscle groups and stuff. And then I think a big piece is I was a late bloomer in baseball, so I was not the best player on my team at all growing up. And I think you kind of sift through that when you're playing different sports. You grow, you develop different skill sets. So it's tough to kind of shake out, that early in your career, when you're in elementary school, middle school, like this is going to be my thing. So ended up working out, but I love growing up playing different sports.
A couple minutes ago, I referenced, how you went back to Germany during your middle school years. So during those middle school years in Germany, you had the chance to play in the Little League World Series. Is that correct for Team Europe?
I did, yes. Yeah, so we had I lived off base, so I lived in a German village. But the school I went to was an American military school, so it was all Americans. We were able, however they organized Little League overseas, it was our American Little League All-Star team, and then we went around in Europe and competed bunch of different tournaments through the stages, and then finally got to Kutno, Poland, and Poland was the final championship. So we played, I think, 8 other countries in that tournament, and some countries that aren't known for baseball, but they had some good teams. But it was kind of funny. We qualified for the League World Series. We show up, we're wearing Team Germany, and everyone thinks we're German. We're like, no, we're all American. We're just we're just representing them.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that'd be pretty funny. And you know, obviously with your 3 years at East Carolina, you're well aware of what Little League baseball is in Greenville, North Carolina. Greenville would send a team to the Little League World Series on multiple occasions, and you had the Little League Softball World Series being hosted at Elm Street. So it's something that I knew Pirate fans would definitely be able to relate to. And what back in those days, you were swinging the bat as well, and you hit a grand slam against Team Canada. I read.
I was, yeah. We were. It was pool play, so we were already out of the tournament, but I'll take it. Cheated on a fastball and got one.
And that experience in Williamsport, what are your memories of that? That's something I've never been there. A team that I was a member of, back when I was 10 years old, we thought we were going to make it there. Unfortunately, got beat in a close game in the state championship. But a lot of excellent memories of watching the Little League World Series from afar on ESPN.
Yeah, no, it is one of the coolest experiences I've had in sports, especially the age you're at. I mean, I was 11 or 12 years old at the time, and you get treated real well at East Carolina. But prior to that, when you're that young, you're not used to that sort of treatment. Being on ESPN, they're decking you out in gear. Playing internationally. So we knew we were kind of in over our heads because the talent pool is really, really good there. We are just happy to be there. But yeah, one of my best memories of sports easily.
Kind of fast forwarding to when you honed in on baseball there early on in high school, like you were saying. I know you came to East Carolina from O'Fallon, Illinois. So O'Fallon Township, I was reading in your ECUPirates.com bio, one of the better programs in Illinois at the time. And you were very highly regarded, coming out of high school. So tell us about your high school days and memories of playing prep baseball, but then your recruitment and how you wound up at, consistent top 25 program like East Carolina.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a wild story. Moved up there my sophomore year. I was living in Charleston at the time. Moved up there my sophomore year. Really good program. A lot of people from the South, they don't know baseball in Illinois is a big deal up there. And it's kind of a tale of two cities. You have down by St. Louis, which is where I grew up, and then all the Chicago schools, all the private schools. So that's kind of the meat of the talent. We usually meet later in the state tournament. But now my career, I was a second baseman. Didn't really pitch much until halfway through my junior year. So I had no offers, wasn't getting recruited much. Was pretty stubborn that I was a middle infielder, but got a few opportunities pitching, did well, and then rolling into my senior year, I played summer ball for a travel team and got some exposure, and things kind of started to ramp up. Then started throwing a little bit harder and building some confidence. So my recruiting process happened pretty quick. Not like a lot of these guys that are getting recruited eighth grade freshman year and they're committing. So it was a little bit of a panic button time. Thought I was going to be just a regular student at a school. Didn't think I was going to get to play anywhere, but got a few offers. And then down in Atlanta, Georgia, my travel ball pitching coach was actually he's the saves leader at Ole Miss. So he played for Coach Gowan when Coach Gowan was coaching on that staff. I got some interest from East Carolina. He's like, whatever you do, you got to go play for this guy. The best coach I ever played for. I was like, all right, I'll go on a visit. Came to Greenville and then quickly learned about the fan base, the history of the program, my meetings with Coach Gowan, Coach Rozelle, Coach Palumbo, and then Pete Piscano, the old Dobo. So I wanted to be South. So it was checking that box. They're a winning program. And then the big selling point for me was the record attendance, how we've led the state in attendance for God knows how many years. I wanted to play in front of a big crowd, and that really pushed me over the edge. So best decision I ever made in my life, easily. And just was so happy to be a Pirate.
Yeah, like you said, something pretty insane as far as like 25 years running that East Carolina has led the state of North Carolina in college baseball attendance. And then in the majority of these years, we're anywhere from top 10 or, right outside the top 10 to top 20 nationally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So fast forward into that freshman season at ECU, the Pirates, as you mentioned, it was coming out of year one of the Cliff Godwin era. The Pirates had won 40 games despite having well less than a full roster, something like 27 players out of the 35-man roster. So arriving on the scene there in the summer of 2015, how was that transition for you?
It was a steep learning curve. I think the expectations for me coming in were to pitch on the weekend and have a bigger role. I struggled a lot in that fall. Learned quickly, like these guys can actually hit a breaking ball, and like I said, just struggled a bunch. But that group was awesome. I mean, that the 2016 group that we made the Texas Tech run with. I only played with those guys for a year, but those are some of my closer friends from ECU that I still keep in touch with. Evan Krasinski, Charlie Yorgan, all those guys. So that first year was like just a huge learning experience for me. And in hindsight, we were 90 feet away from Omaha that year. I don't think that really resonated how close we were until I'm a freshman. I think this is what we do. Until a few years later, it's like, gosh, we were really close. But I wouldn't say the most talented team of the three teams I played with, but a really close group. And what a fun year that was, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, exactly. And coming off the 40-win season and the conference tournament championship prior to your arrival, there were some ups and downs. And you're always going to have that with the baseball season, but a little more than you would have liked probably in that 2016 season. And you referenced it there at the end. You didn't play well down in Clearwater, and I heard Coach Godwin here recently is either on Pirate Radio or 94.3 The Game in Greenville. He was talking about just that experience of struggling in Clearwater, and then you came back and leading into the NCAA tournament, you pretty much just had a, a mini mission week, excuse me, if you will.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was kind of a blessing in disguise was getting beat so early in the tournament. As we got home, got to rest, and then kind of flipped the switch of this is a whole new season, and then going to the selection show, we were going back to Charlottesville. We had beat them 2 of 3 earlier in the year, so we were like, if there's any national brand at that time that we felt confident we could play in their place was them. So yeah, that tournament was awesome. I remember sitting on the bus. I think it was George Mason was playing Virginia. We were playing the winner of them, and we heard the stadium go silent while we're sitting on the bus. We're like, "Oh, they just beat it! Like we're going to a super." We knew because we did not want to play Virginia again. But yeah, it was one of my best memories. Easily was playing in that tournament.
And we'll certainly circle back to the memories of the Charlottesville Regional as well as the Lubbock Super Regional. But that year, you had the chance to pitch in 25 games as a true freshman, and you started one, logged a little over 30 innings, and a 3-1 record. I know you had a chance to come in and going back and looking at things. You had a save against NC State, and you picked up a win against the quality Yukon club. What are your memories of that initial campaign?
Yeah, it was like I said, I struggled a lot in the fall, so I knew I wasn't going to be starting. So I was happy for any innings possible. It was, I think we were kind of learning our identity amongst our staff that year with such a big class coming in. So it was multiple roles. I think I had a spot start in there somewhere. Um, so it was kind of all hands on deck. We didn't have defined roles, which presents a challenge. I'm most comfortable in a starter's role, being in a routine. I had been that my whole career up until that point. So I learned a ton just, every day you don't know if you're pitching or not, but, preparing, coming ready to pitch. But that was kind of the mentality. Apart from Evan Krasinski and Jimmy Boyd that year, I think everybody was we were competing for jobs every weekend. So a lot different than later in my career.
I referenced a couple games there. Is there a specific game of that freshman year? Obviously, it's a while ago now, but one that stands out.
That NC State game you mentioned, it was before we were playing on TV, where all the games are televised now. So I remember getting out of class, showing up, and you see the big ESPN trucks outside. Like your juice is flowing a little extra on those kind of games coming out, and we packed that place out. And I don't remember exactly what the scores were. We beat them handily, and I threw a few innings at the end of the game in Greenville. So that was definitely one of the top moments of that year.
Yeah, I referenced the game where you had the save, and then the game that you're talking about. I did notice it's a 15-3 win, and you
Yep.
you had a season high 4 innings in relief.
I did, yeah. I guess the lead was so big, I was just going in there to eat some innings.
But going back to that regional, like you mentioned, you had beaten the defending national champion 2 out of 3 early in the season, and it's one of those things. Despite the way you guys had not performed well down in Clearwater, you felt pretty confident, about as confident, in my opinion, as you probably could have as a 3 seed going into a program like Virginia.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the tough thing with sports is you got to be playing your best down the stretch. Yeah, I can compare that with my junior year. Didn't have our best tournament when we hosted that regional, and you're hosting, so it's frustrating. But that year, it was a new season, and you just kind of have to treat it as such. It's kind of a fresh slate for everybody, but yeah, we played. I think we swung above our weight that year, um, and made a hell of a run there.
Yeah, you really did. Of course, in that game, not to get too far into the weeds here, but that game against UVA, you had the walk-off home run by Travis Watkins. But throughout that game, we had been knocking on the door, runners on base throughout, had left something like 12 runners. And then all of a sudden there, I think you got a runner on base in the ninth with a swinging bunt. And then from that point on, guys were teeing off.
Yeah, yeah, we just clicked offense for that inning. Just one pitches. It was I know it's a cliche kind of thing, but kind of one pitch at a time, our hitters, and then put ourselves in a position, to win the ball game there. And I remember Travis. I think we all blacked out after he hit it, because I think he only needed a sac fly to tie the game, and he hit it. We knew it was a sac fly, so we're all like pumped about that. And I was like, watching like, oh, that thing's gonna go, and watching it leave was awesome, especially at their place.
Yeah, that the left fielder just kept drifting back and back and back,
Yep.
and kind of a funny story about that is my dad was talking to one of the ushers, the event staff there the next day when we were playing William and Mary, and that usher said, the East Carolina people have been very nice. However, there was one woman that made it very clear that you guys beat our ass yesterday.
That's what you're there for.
Yeah. So in that Lubbock Super Regional, you guys won the first ever Super Regional game for East Carolina, and then, as you said, in Game 2, on the brink of Omaha, and unfortunately, went off the backside of the mound when it came off of Brady Lloyd's bat, but that looked like a heck of an atmosphere in Lubbock. With those aluminum bleachers, it was very loud on TV.
Yeah, yeah, no, that game's painful to think of. Just thinking of all the little things we could have done. And then obviously not the result we wanted on Sunday. We didn't play great, but I look back on all the environments I played in, and I think a lot of my teammates would agree that that environment was probably the loudest we played in. Just the way it was shaped in, at least as far as on the road, the way the stadium shaped. Um, I don't know, maybe have 7,000, so not a whole ton of people, but the way they're on you, it was really loud. So what an experience to have freshman year. And but like I said, that one's painful to think of, thinking of how close we were.
So following that freshman season, you had the chance to pitch up in the Cape for the Bourne Braves, and you did that on a couple of occasions during your time in college ball. And I know that had to be a big honor, and you had a lot of success up there that first time with Bourne.
But yeah, it was some of the most fun baseball I've had, playing with guys from all over the country. But that summer, I think is kind of where made my biggest developmental leap. I knew I wanted to come back as a starter, but I had cornered myself my freshman year as kind of just being a two pitch guy, a sinker slider, and worked a lot leading up to that summer before I left campus with Coach Rizal on developing a changeup. And kind of the advice from him was, you're going to go out there. He's like, these games, they matter, but they don't. He's like, throw the changeup, throw it in games. Like you're gonna have to work through it if you want any chance to start for us in the future. So I started out in the bullpen there, wasn't getting a lot of opportunities, and I finally got to start. And then changeup kind of took off from there. Ended up being my best pitch. So yeah, that if you ever get a chance to go up there to watch a few games, along with Williamsport, is in Cape Cod in the summer. It's an awesome place.
And I know your second year there, obviously you had Spencer Brickhouse and Turner Brown on your team. Were there any other Pirates that initial year?
Nope, it was just me. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it was fun to have those guys up the next summer. I had an abbreviated summer the next summer. I came back because we had the incoming freshmen coming in, so I came back to go through summer workouts with them. But both summers were awesome times.
One of the unique things about collegiate summer ball like that, I mean, be it Cape Cod and the Coastal Plain League, etc., is the chance to live with the host family. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was good. It's kind of luck of the draw with what family you get, but most of the families up there are really good people. So me and Brickhouse were roommates the second summer at the same house. Was a place that owned a bed and breakfast in. So they had a whole compound of bed and breakfast, and in the main family house, we lived in the third floor. We had the whole third floor to ourselves. So, like I said, it's luck of the draw. Sometimes you get stuffed in a closet room or, not the best situation. But I got real lucky in that regard.
If they had a bed and breakfast like that, and they had been doing that for a while, you guys probably ate pretty well then, right?
Oh, we did, yeah. Definitely.
So, like you mentioned, you made that progression toward being a starter. You started in the bullpen, in that 2017 season. So many expectations coming off the super regional run that we've already discussed, and then right at the end of March, you became a starter. So walk us through that. And I know I believe you got your first start against the Yukon Huskies, and the Pirates were playing the Huskies 6 times back in those days.
Yeah, do not miss those trips up to stores. No, that year was I think kind of a reality check for our program. We had such a good year in 2016, and we rolled into Ole Miss. I think we were ranked 4th or 5th, and they were 6 or 7. It was a top 10 matchup. A lot of expectations. We thought it was going to be status quo. We get swept opening weekend. That weekend, I really wanted to be in the weekend rotation. I didn't make it, so I was real frustrated starting out in the pen. And then I came in 7th inning in relief. Hopefully everyone's forgotten this game, but I had an intentional walk with a runner at third, airmailed it. So walked the runner in on a wild pitch. So that first weekend was, like I said, a real reality check for us. And then we kind of got plagued by injuries throughout that year. But I think, as painful it was, I think Coach Godwin would agree, it's probably most we've learned program-wise from that year. And we're able to build on it in future years. But in the moment, that year was dark at times. Lost a lot of games.
Yeah, and Coach Godwin said, in the moment it obviously sucked, but reflecting back on things, he wouldn't change a thing because it propelled the program to where it is now, with that 2018 season, which we'll dive into here in a few minutes. But part of that 2017 season, a dark time individually as well as for the team, obviously, is what transpired down at Houston when you had the orbital bone fracture. So tell us about that adversity and then how you used that as a positive to become the pitcher you were from then on throughout your Pirate career.
Yeah, so after that Ole Miss weekend, I come out of the pen and kind of flip the switch, kind of work my way in, treated every outing like a tryout, and eventually worked myself in the rotation. I think you had mentioned my first start was the Friday before against UConn, pitched well, then we go to Houston. First inning goes great, and then that second inning, I left the fastball over the plate a little bit too much, rips a liner back up the middle, and was not able to get a glove on it. So I shattered all my orbital bone in here. So not a fun time, but was able to have local surgeons in Greenville repair it. I thought my season was done, and then with conversations with my surgeon, I had seen the mask. A few NBA players had worn it. Pete Alonso had worn a similar one. So we got the mask, presented the idea. It's like it's a non-contact sport, and was able to convince him. So I pitched a little bit at the end of the year, and then obviously we lost in the championship in the conference that year. So I went back to Cape Cod, and then that summer I just treated as I'm not wearing the mask and mentally use these innings to get back, knock down any, fears or reservations I have about pitching in the future, because it was pretty scary when it happened. But thankfully I had that opportunity to, get some innings in summer ball and come back ready to go my junior year.
Yeah, that injury, as well as one that was sustained by Lane Hoover a few years later down at Georgia Southern, those were definitely more the two gruesome injuries that I recall for East Carolina baseball players.
Yeah, definitely. That one was not fun. It's part of the game.
So, yeah, part of the game, and you certainly bounced back from it in a big way. In 2018, you were a third-team All-American. You were 9-1. I want to throw in a number here from Johnny Robertson, aka Johnny Stats. Of those 9 victories, 3 came on Friday, 3 came on Saturday, and 3 came on Sunday. And as you would guess, you started the year as the Sunday guy, win over Western Carolina. But that week 2 matchup is the first time that you'd had the traveling series between the Pirates and the Tar Heels. The rubber match at Boshamer Stadium. Pirates win 12-0, and you were obviously very good that day.
That was a good day. Yeah, that was. I think it was the first year we did. I'm not sure if they had done that in years past, but what a cool idea for the fan bases. That Friday night was incredible at home, beating them at home and then losing, but the environment at the Durham Bulls Stadium and then finishing in Chapel Hill was just an awesome event, especially that early in the season. But what a good way to start our year that year with a series win over them. So.
Yeah, it really was. And that Friday night game at Clark LeClaire, I'll never forget the way Trey Benton pitched in a very cold environment, as you would expect for an evening game that early in the season in mid to late February.
Yeah, definitely. No, I was being the junior. I was of that staff. I was the most senior. Jake Agnos and Trey Benton were both sophomores that year. So I really want to be the Friday guy, being the most senior guy, but what a talented group of guys to compete with. I thought that staff was really good. So it was no insult to myself that I was pitching, on Sunday as a junior.
And when I think of that game against the Tar Heels, that the Pirates won 12-0, I'll never forget it's either the third baseman or the left fielder, picked up a ball in foul ground and it was right there. I think we were probably up 10 or 11-0 at the time. And we had a runner going from second to third, and he picked the ball up, and when he took it back to throw it, it went into the stands, and then that runner going to third obviously got to come home, and that was just one of those moments. It was just kind of icing on the cake since the outcome was already determined.
Yeah. Yeah, when it rains, it pours.
But in that season, like I mentioned, you steadily progress your way into that Friday night role. So what are your memories of that, and becoming such a key cog for the pitching staff?
Yeah, like I said, starting that year on Sunday, I remember talking to Evan Krasinski, who was already with the Cardinals at the time, and kind of the conversation we had was, if I'm going to be the Sunday guy, we're never going to lose on Sunday. That's just going to be that's all I can control. And then steadily through the year, as I continued to pitch well, I kind of morphed into the Friday role. But the job was still the same. It's your one game of the week. Friday, be it Friday or Sunday or Saturday. Your job's to give your team to win. So definitely fun pitching on Fridays. Leading everybody the first game of a series. So I'd be lying if I said I didn't prefer to pitch on Fridays, but whatever role they had me in that year, job was kind of the same. So
Another pretty mind-boggling stat that Johnny Robertson threw out there was how you started the year. I mentioned the shutout against the Tar Heels, but your first 25 innings, against Western Carolina, North Carolina, St. Joe's, and then the Charlotte 49ers, you didn't allow a run. So pretty remarkable.
yeah, we had a good defense that year too. So that definitely helped. But yeah, I remember I didn't even know I had the streak until I lost it. I think it was a blue pit at Charlotte, but had to end at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's one of those. I'd like to know where it ranks all time. Is probably the record holder, because very atypical for sure. Even with, you think of some of the arms we've had down through the years. Here recently with Gavin Williams and Trey Savage. I'm trying to remember. They may have approached something like that, but certainly very impressive. But in that season, after the struggles of 2017, you bounce back in a big way. You have a excellent showing down in Clearwater, and as a result, you solidify a host spot. The first time, since 2009 that you had hosted on campus, and just the second time ever.
Yeah, that was I think through my 3 years, the year we had my freshman year to the struggles my sophomore year, um, that's one of our big goals is hosting regionals. And I think it's kind of a phrase Coach Cowan throws around a lot is leave a place better than you found it. So as a program, we're always trying to elevate the program, and that was a big step for us. I thought under his tutelage was getting back to hosting a regional, and what a good feeling that was after my sophomore year of getting back to that place and seeing Greenville in a regional environment. And we didn't play our greatest in that regional, and I definitely didn't throw my best, but just to see that environment and bring it back and kind of set the standard for what has been ECU baseball the last few years. That now it's the expectation, not something that's out of reach anymore. So
Yeah,
what
like
a good way to wrap up my career was seeing that environment.
Yeah, no doubt. Like you said, and even though the weekend didn't go the way we would have liked as Pirate fans, you had a 16-7 win over the Seahawks. I'll never forget. It seems like early in that game, you had Connor Litton go yard, and Clark LeClaire was just electric. And then also, I mean, you just had from what I recall, a heck of a baseball game against the South Carolina Gamecocks. It seems like Andrew Hendrickson made an unbelievable catch there to help give us a chance in the mid to late innings. And then, unfortunately, you had what you so often do in regional play in Greenville, North Carolina, that lengthy
That
rain
rain,
delay
yeah,
of several hours, and Jake Agnos couldn't go back out after he was cruising.
yeah, yeah. What a frustrating way for it to end up. But South Carolina had a hell of a team that year. I mean, they had to be one of the stronger non-hosts in the country. But yeah, it's tough to blame it on the rain, but that was frustrating because Jake, yeah, he he was not slowing down at any time. But I think we had like a 2 or 3 hour rain delay. You couldn't roll him back out there at that point.
So, as someone, fast forwarding to the conclusion of that season and the MLB draft, you were drafted in the 11th round by the St. Louis Cardinals. So, for someone who came to East Carolina from Illinois, a Midwest kid for the last few to several years of your life there before college and throughout college, that had to be pretty awesome to be drafted by such an awesome organization that had had so much success.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the way it kind of shook out for me was nice because I didn't throw great down the latter half of that year, especially my last few starts. So I slipped a little bit, but I was able to essentially pick, kind of uniquely pick what team I was going to sign with. So between Miami and Colorado and St. Louis were kind of all offering the same deal, and I knew Evan Krasinski, one of my good buddies, was already in the organization. I knew their history of developing pitchers. It was an easy decision that I wanted to go back to St. Louis. So cool. It was cool for all my old high school coaches and everybody that are huge Cardinals fans back in Southern Illinois, and just to be part of such a historic organization. So
Yeah, no doubt. And so in that first year of pro ball, in the summer and fall of 2018, what was that first taste of minor league baseball like? And I know you had the chance to log a little over 50 innings.
yeah, it was good. I was so looking back on it now, I was so tired at that point in the year. That was my first, I think my largest inning workload my junior year, and then rolling right into another 50 plus innings. But yeah, good experience, and then uh, in short season up in State College, Pennsylvania, and then really cool going down for my first spring training.
With that, definitely, I think I saw you were 3-3, and definitely highs and lows, as you would expect the first experience with pro ball. But then, unfortunately, you sustained an injury, and you would not pitch again. You had COVID thrown in there as well in 2020, but till 2022 would be the next time you take the mound after that 2018 season.
Yeah, no, it definitely didn't go to script the way I would have liked. You're all excited your first spring training. I'm throwing in my first sim game, um, and tear my UCL. So I ended up getting Tommy John surgery, and then rehab from that surgery. Come back, and then COVID year hits. We get sent home. I come back the following year. I re-tear it, and at that point, I was, kind of on the fence of whether I was going to hang it up or not. I'm 3 years into pro ball and two surgeries, but I didn't want to go out on an injury. So I went through the surgery, came back, was able to pitch, and and we'll talk later about what I'm doing now, but it offered, being that long in rehab, I was able to do some flying while I was down in Florida to get my private pilot license. So ended up kind of being a blessing in disguise. And, if you would have told me I was never going to make the big leagues when my career started, but I was going to learn all the things I did through that adversity, and it wasn't fun in the moment, but in hindsight, learned a ton. So was grateful for my 4 years with them. Absolutely.
One of the things you did have an opportunity to do because of being German born was playing the World Baseball Classic. What was that experience like? And you were that was something very unique and rare opportunity.
Yeah, it was kind of coming full circle in my career from my time in the League World Series. Um, Came to my attention. The coach reached out to me from Germany. He's like, "Do you want to play in the World Baseball Classic?" I was like, "I'm not German." Well, based on my German birth through my dad's military career, I was eligible. So I was healthy. I had just gotten healthy. I pitched a few innings with the Cardinals, and then I had gotten release. So I was in throwing shape. I didn't have any job opportunities at the time, so I was like, "Well, this is perfect time for me to go do this." So awesome experience. I flew over Germany and spent a little over 2 months there, playing with them in the World Baseball Classic qualifier, and then following that, traveled around a little bit in Europe before I came back. And coming back from that, I was like, that was a nice little kind of victory lap on my career. I'm ready to move on and do different things. So it was
And before,
good kind of closure for my career.
yeah, no doubt. I'm glad you got that opportunity after the injury riddled pro career and being released by the Cardinals. But as we kind of transition into that next phase of this conversation, which is what you're up to now with the United States Air Force, but kind of reflecting back just a little, during those formative years, if you will, at East Carolina, as you were going from a or moving into young adulthood, Cliff Godwin, talk about that relationship you have with Coach, because Coach Godwin, he's certainly wanting to win on the field, but then also in the classroom and in the community. And it's just remarkable the success that the program's not only had on the field, but in the classroom with, probably 7 years running now of over a 3.4 team GPA.
Yeah, no, like I said, coming to East Carolina was the best decision of my life, and a large part of that was playing for that man. Um, can't tell you all the stuff I've learned from him and take with me in my life today. The amount of parallels with the stuff I'm doing now and stuff we learned at ECU. The list is long. And a big part of that is what you spoke to is I think he's different than a normal college coach, where it's more than just wins and losses on on your record or what you do on the field. The expectation is to excel in all areas of life, in the classroom, in the community, being squared away, being a role model. Um, but no, I could not have asked for a better man to play for. Still talk to him to this day. I know we were texting. We were both in Annapolis last week. I was able to catch him and talk to him a little bit in person. So absolutely nothing but good things to say about him.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And, you see it, you know, in this day and age of collegiate athletics, unfortunately, where a lot of it, at least in many programs, has become so transactional. Cliff Godwin definitely utilizes the transfer portal, but kind of like Dabo Swinney at Clemson in football has been, fairly reluctant to do so, and for good reason, because he said it's for him, it's about those relationships, and if the time ever comes where he just simply cannot have those relationships with his players, then that's when you'll see him, hang it up and go do something else, because that's a big reason he does what he does.
Yeah, definitely. That was good. Good shout out there. My whole family went to Clemson. We're big Clemson football and Dabo fans, so I think they're a lot alike in many ways. But I think that's our part of our competitive advantage. We don't the tremendous resources we have at ECU, but you compare it to the Ole Misses or the Texases of the world, what they have at their disposal, and our competitive advantage is the stuff we do, growing as a team, doing the little things right, and that stuff can't be transferred. That can't be taught in a year. That takes years to develop. So it does not surprise me with all this NIL and transfer portal stuff in the last few years that he stayed true to what he knows works and how to develop a sustainable program.
Kind of shifting gears now, your dad, aka Colonel Bob Holba, he's a guy that had that military background with the United States Air Force, played both baseball and football for the Air Force Academy, and obviously, as awesome as playing baseball was, and as much of a dream as that was for you, I know you're living out another dream right now with the United States Air Force. So tell folks about that.
Yes. So, like I said, my dad was in the Air Force. My oldest brother, he is a instructor pilot in the Air Force, and then my other brother, he's a deployable engineer in the Air Force as well. So I was the last Holba man to join, but like I said, during my last Tommy John recovery, I kind of was seeing the writing on the wall that probably wasn't going to be able to make a career out of this long term. And being around the military was something that had always kind of been on my mind. And then through that year, was able to clarify what that path was going to look like. So got my private pilot license, and then started applying. I actually went Air Force Reserves, so slightly different. Yeah, on the pilot side, I applied to specific bases, and then there's a whole interview process. So it took about a year and a half to get hired, but eventually got hired out of a A-10 Warthog fighter squadron out of Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. So got the pilot slot with them about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and then you got to go through all the medical process and background check, and it's an extensive process. But just got through that, and then went to officer training school down in Alabama at the end of last fall. About a 8-week program, become an officer in the Air Force, and then now I've just moved down to Columbus, Mississippi, and I'll start pilot training here in 3 weeks.
Gotcha. One of the questions that we had from Nate Gaminder, one of the loyal members of the Left Field Jungle, he said, kind of going back to that ECU career, did you have a favorite opponent to play against?
It'd be a toss-up between NC State or UNC.
Gotcha.
One of the two. It was always, I think we had a pretty good record while I was there against them, but it was always a little sweeter beating those guys.
What about within the league? Was it Tulane?
Within the league,
or UConn, because you're playing 6 times?
Yeah, UConn. I had a few friends on that team. They were fun to play, just from summer ball. Houston, not really the rivalry that it once was, but when I first got there, they were the team to beat. So if I had to pick someone in the league, I'd probably say Houston.
A moment ago, you referenced your physical for the military, and obviously, you do a tremendous job of taking care of yourself. You've completed 2 marathons. You ran the Kiowa Island Marathon and also the New York City Marathon. So tell us about that mental and physical grind.
Yeah, I think anybody who knows me, I'm not the fastest dude, but transitioning out of baseball, was just looking for something, physically and mentally challenging somewhere in that domain. So just kind of on a whim, started running a little bit. My sister signed me up for a marathon, so we did that one together, and then enjoyed it. And then I got an opportunity to do the New York City one. They're pretty painful though. I think I'm good on them for a while. Got to check that box. I'll find some other stuff to do, but that was a good experience.
Yeah, I don't blame you, but hats off to you for completing those. Between the two, did you have a preference? Which one was your favorite? Obviously, Kiowa Island. Depending on what time of year, that may have been better weather. Or
yeah, Kiowa was cool. The New York City one was that one was definitely the best, just because they packed the city out. Like I didn't even wear headphones the whole time I was running, because there's so much, noise the whole way you're going. And you start over in Brooklyn, go over the Brooklyn Bridge, and kind of sneak your way throughout Manhattan. So really, really cool experience.
Yeah, really cool. And as we wrap things up here, a bit of a speed round. Favorite baseball movie?
Rookie of the Year, easy.
Rookie of the Year. Superstitions or are you superstitious? And if so, what are those superstitions?
I'm not a superstitious guy. That's a cop-out answer. I like a routine, but I'm not no weird superstitions.
I agree. Favorite restaurant in Greenville?
I'll go Omar's. Some gyros.
Favorite MLB team?
It was the Cubs growing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went to the rival.
I did, yeah. I'll stick with the Cubs, though.
As I'm sure you may have seen on social media, Sean Armstrong, former Pirate pitcher from the Billy Godwin years, he pitched for the Cardinals and the Cubs this year.
I did, yeah. I actually trained in the off season for one of my years with him. Awesome dude.
And
So
then
good to see
final
him.
question. Yeah. And favorite player.
Favorite player?
Yeah, going back to your childhood.
Greg Maddux, easy.
Greg Maddux.
Yep.
That's kind of it. When I came up with that question, I thought that may be your answer, just in the type of pitcher you were, and not being a high velocity, high strikeout guy, needing to locate and change speeds and
Pitching
so
to
forth.
contact.
I thought you may be a Maddux guy.
Yep, definitely.
Well, Chris, we really appreciate the time this afternoon. As we wrap up this conversation, I know you follow the program closely. You mentioned staying in touch with Coach Godwin just a couple weeks ago. Talk about what it means to you to see the strides this program continues to make. Vying for super regionals in Omaha. Year in, year out, and consistent top 15 and top 20 program. And I'm gonna put something on the screen here. We're raising money for the Dick and Sarah Bennett baseball building. That fundraising is pretty much done, thanks to the $1 million match initiative back in the fall. And we'll begin construction, following the 2025 season. And it'll have a professional locker room. So guys in the future that are playing pro ball like you did can come back and, what would that have meant to you? Obviously, you were welcome back, but Pirates in the future have that locker room at their disposal when they come back to Clark LeClaire.
Yeah, no, I think it intertwines with what we were talking about earlier with the transfer and NIL stuff. This is the stuff that allows us to compete with, the biggest brands in the country. It's amazing to see. As great as the facility was when I showed up freshman year to what it is now with the new hitting indoor, the turf around, the new scoreboard, as we continue to do this. So this is, we had talked about this when we were there, how sweet this would be to have. So it's really cool to see it coming into reality. And I think that's what's cool about what Coach Godwin's building is this isn't a 1 or 2 year fluke, that this is a sustainable program that's going to be good for many, many years. And to see us kind of progress, and as I talked about, hosting regionals and hosting super regionals being the expectation, and we'll punch our ticket, I believe, very, very soon here. But that plays a huge part to continue to upgrade our facility, and that's hats off to the fan base and all the generous donors that make that possible.
Yeah, no doubt. One of college baseball's most loyal followings. And, I just cannot wait till that first trip to Charles Schwab Field in Omaha and to see how many Pirates make the trip. It's going to be something where I've always said once we do go, look out with the momentum that the program will have at that point.
Exactly. Yep. I'll be there as well.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing you at Omaha. But again, appreciate the time. Tell Pirate fans how they can follow you on social media.
I not a huge Twitter, Facebook guy, but I do have an Instagram. It's just at Chris Holba. But thank you for having me on. This is a good conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate all you did for the Pirates, and we'll certainly stay in touch and maybe have you back on the show to actually talk about some of the current happenings down the road.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Pirate Nation, that is former East Carolina right-hander Chris Holba. Really appreciate his time this afternoon, spending about 50 minutes with us, taking a look back at his Pirate career, what Coach Godwin and staff meant to him. But before we get out of here, let's take a look at the perfect game top 25 college baseball poll that was released today. There you see Texas A&M is number one. Pretty ironic there that you see the Aggies at number one. Then you have the Texas Longhorns at seventh. Of course, Texas A&M was runner-up a year ago under Jim Schlossnagle before Schloss moved over to Austin. Other notes about this top 25 from the perfect game, you have Eric Bakich and Nick Schnabel coming in at eighth. You have the Duke Blue Devils, of course, annually on the ECU schedule, and you have former Pirate and then Chris Holba teammate Eric Tyler who's the hitting coach and runs the offense there for the Blue Devils. They are ninth. You have the Tar Heels. You have that traveling series, as has been the case over the last few seasons with North Carolina, which began in 2018, as we referenced a few minutes ago. The Tar Heels are 19th. You have Wake Forest, who is not on the schedule, at 16th. You have Coastal Carolina coming to Clark LeClaire 4-3 this season, and the Chanticleers are ranked 23rd by perfect game. You also, of note, have DBU and UCSB in that top 25, as well as Coach Mack, Kevin McMullen, and Coach O'Connor. They do such an excellent job with the Virginia Cavaliers. They are ranked third. But that will do it for us here on Jungle Tales. Again, Jungle Tales, the Pirate Baseball Podcast. You can find us there. You see on the bottom of the screen at Jungle Tales Pod on X, Instagram, as well as Facebook. On Facebook, we were a group, but we converted it over to a page, which will make it easier to go live there, in addition to YouTube, as we move into the 2025 season. And we can also be found, in addition to those two platforms, live or archived. You can find our content audio only form, or podcast form, if you will, on Spotify. But for this 8th edition of Jungle Tales, we appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon, as we have a lot of content headed your way moving into the 2025 season. We'll talk to you soon, and as always, go Pirates.